PasswordSys.com. I'm Knox, and this is Patch, and today we're going to be showing you local password cracking. Now, not only does local password cracking allow you to get the password for the computer that you're on, I mean that's obvious, but there's lots of other things you can do with that password. For instance, if you're on a large network where they maybe used ghost images to set up all the computers, that password could have been used on all those computers. Also, a lot of times, people will just reuse that password, so you can have that password as a reference if you're trying to crack into other things. Now, also today, we're not only going to show you just how to crack, we're also going to show you how to reset and restore passwords. There's different trade-offs to either one. I mean, obviously knowing the password is helpful, but sometimes the password is going to be too large to crack or just take too long. So that way you can just take that password out of there to give you access to that local machine, and then you can restore it. Now Patch is going to show us what we're going to be doing today.
We're going to use Backtrack 2 to reset and restore passwords in Linux and Windows, and we're also going to use it to crack both passwords on both operating systems. And then at the end we're also going to show you some other programs you can use to crack Windows passwords. Alright, let's get into it. We're going to start off by resetting and restoring the password on a Linux computer using Ubuntu. As you see here, we just type in a whole bunch of garbage and obviously we're not going to get in. So we're going to restart the computer and put in Backtrack and tell it to boot from CD and just load it up. Alright, once it's loaded up, you're going to want to open up the terminal. And just type in mount to show you all the mounted devices. And Backtrack should automatically mount it. Since it's a Linux format, it's going to mount it as read and write, so we can leave that mount how it is. But we're going to want to navigate to that mounted drive, which is in mount and then whatever device it is. And then we're going to go into the etc folder, which contains all the password information. It contains the password file, which holds the username, and in some cases the user hash and other information. The problem is that file is world readable, which means anybody can access it and read it. So to add extra layer of security, they create this thing called shadowing the password, which basically creates another file called the shadow, which takes the password hash from the password file and replaces it with an X or an asterisk, and then puts the password hash in another file, which is only readable by root. So this adds an extra layer of security, so not every user can go in and just look at the password hashes. And also, since the password file is still there, it allows normal programs to function correctly. As you can see, that the password was removed, the password hash was removed and replaced by an X, which informs the operating system that the password file is shadowed. So to be able to get the password hash, you're going to have to go to the shadowed file. And since we're in a debug mode, we're viewing the hard drive with Backtrack, so we can read this file. Alright, first we're going to show you how to reset or change the password, and then that'll allow us to log into the whatever username you want to, and then do what we need to do, and then get out and then restore the password after we're done. There's a couple methods to do this. The easiest way to do this is to open up the password file and just simply remove that X or asterisk or password hash, whatever's in there. Leave it so that field is blank. This will tell the operating system that there is no password for that user. But however, this will not work with Ubuntu because they require a password. So this will work on other Linux versions, but not for Ubuntu. So we'll just leave it the way it is, and then we'll show you the second method. The second method is what we're going to do is first make a copy of the shadow file so that way we can restore it after we're done. And then what we want to do is unmount that hard drive so that we can remount it to another directory. It's going to make another directory called Ubuntu, and then unmount the device, and then remount it to the Ubuntu directory. Alright, after we've remounted to the Ubuntu folder, we can change the root of Backtrack 2 to be the Ubuntu folder. And then after that's done, we can use the password command to change the password of any user. Just type in password, then patchy to change that username. And after that's done, all you have to do is exit and reboot the computer. Alright, we're back on the Ubuntu machine. And we'll just type in the username and the password we changed it to. And there you go. We're in. Alright, now I'm just going to open up a terminal and log into root with the same password. And show you that when you're on the system, only a root user can view the shadow file. And then I'm just going to exit out of root and try to output the contents of shadow again, and it gives me a permission denied. So, alright, now we're going to just reset Ubuntu, and we're going to boot back into Backtrack 2 and show you how to restore the password. Just navigate to the same directory again, then go to etc, and use the move command to replace the current shadow with our backed up shadow. That will basically restore the old password. Alright, well that's basically it for resetting Linux passwords. Next we're going to show you how to crack Linux passwords, and it's pretty simple. We're going to use Backtrack again. So you can just go to the pen test, password, John folder, and this is the directory for the John the Ripper program, which is a program that can crack multiple hashes. But first we're going to use unshadow to take the password hashes from the shadow file and put it back into the password file. You can do this manually, but it's easier to just use the program. And then we're just going to output the output into a temporary password file. And as you can see, that's what the password file would look like if it wasn't shadowed. Then we can just point John to that password file, and it'll start cracking the password. By default, John the Ripper does a brute force attack on the hashes, but this could take a while, so we're going to use the word list that comes with Backtrack 2 to do a dictionary attack. In previous episodes, we've already covered what a dictionary attack is, so you should know what's going on here. And you should know that if it's a non-dictionary word, this attack will not work. To do this, go to the dictionaries folders in Backtrack, unzip the word list, then navigate back to the John the Ripper folder, and then type in John -- word list equals, and then point it to the word list location. As you can see, we have ... /..., basically those are directory transversals, which tells John to get that word list from 2 previous directories, then dictionaries, and then word list. Pretty basic stuff. And then you just type where the password hashes are stored, and then just run the attack. And if it is a dictionary word, this should take a couple seconds. Alright, there you go, the password's infinity. Now we're going to move on to the Windows operating system, and we're going to start off with resetting a password and restoring it.
Alright, here we are in our Windows box. As you can see, there's a password set. And shut it down and boot up Backtrack. Now, if you don't have it to boot from CD, or if it doesn't ask you to, you have to go in your BIOS and change the bootloader to boot from CD first. Starting up Backtrack. Alright, in Windows, all the password information is stored in the config folder. In that folder, there's a SAM file. This is the Security Accounts Manager. This stores all the password and usernames and the hashes for the passwords. Also in that folder, there's a syskey system file which adds an extra layer of security. Alright, now that you know where everything's at, what you need to do is, because Linux, when you type in mount, you can see that a hard drive is mounted as only read. Because this isn't a Linux format, NTFS isn't, we need to unmount our drive, and then we're going to have to remount it as a read-writable mount. This is the command to mount a drive that's either in like FAT or FAT32. We're not going to be using this one because we have an NTFS formatted drive. But as you can see, it's just mount -O rewrite the drive that you want to mount and where you want to mount it. The command that we're going to use, because we have an NTFS format, is NTFS mount the device and our mount location. Now that that's done, you can see that the device has been mounted properly, and we're going to navigate to that config folder. First, what we're going to do, while we're in there, we're going to back up those files, so in case you mess something up, and of course so you can reset the password back to the original password, we're going to make backup files for each one of those. First we're going to make the SAM backup, and then we'll make the system backup. Alright, now that we have those backed up, we're going to use the change NT password program that comes with Backtrack, the -I, which is the interactive mode, and then we're going to give it the location of the SAM file, the system file, which has the syskey, and the security file. Now that that's loaded, we're just going to choose one, which is edit user data and password. And now we have to choose a username. We're just going to choose the administrator by default. Alright, now it's going to ask you to set the password for that user. Here it said that an asterisk sets a blank password, and we're going to use that because we've tried setting passwords and it doesn't always work. So we found that the asterisk for the blank password is the most reliable. And then we're going to use exclamation point to exit out, Q to quit, and then save all the changes, yes. This part's really important. You got to make sure you reboot the system. We had, on more than one occasion, we forgot to do it properly, so all the drives weren't unmounted properly, and it corrupts the files, and we just go through all kinds of problems. And so just make sure that you do that. Here we are at our Windows login. As you can see, no password logs us in. Do what you need to do. Get in there. Peruse the files. Alright, now we're going to boot back into Backtrack, and we're going to reset that password with those backed up files that we had saved. Of course, we need to go ahead and unmount that drive again and remount it as a read-writable drive. Same commands as before. As you can see, it's all mounted, rewrite, right there. Now we're going to navigate to the config folder again, where we saved those backup files. We're going to go ahead and remove the SAM and the system file that stored that blank administrative password, and we're going to rename those backup files that have the original password stored in them to the SAM and system. As you can see, it's all restored properly, and again, you're going to have to reboot this properly. If you don't reboot it properly, your files are going to get corrupted and you have to repair those files. So Windows gives you a folder that has all the original files in it. Everything's in there to go ahead and repair your system, and then you can try cracking it again. Just make sure you reboot it. As you can see, the password has been restored.
Alright, the last thing we're going to show you is how to crack Windows passwords. We're just going to boot back into Backtrack 2, as usual. But this time we don't need to be able to write to the drive, so having the drive only be read-only is fine. Just navigate to that config folder once again. Alright, the first thing we need to do is extract the system key from the system file. To do this, we use a program called bkhive. Just type in bkhive, the location of the system file, and then where you want to store the extracted syskey. Alright, next we're going to use samdump2 to extract the password hashes. Just type in samdump2, the location of the SAM file, then the location of the syskey that you already extracted with bkhive, and then we're just going to pipe that to a password file. Alright, if you look at the extracted password hashes, you'll notice it's a little bit different than the password hashes that were for Linux. First there's the username, then the user ID, and for an administrator it's always 500. And then you'll see two sets of password hashes. Basically, the first one is known as the LANman, or LM password hash. And basically what it does is it takes your password, converts it all to uppercase, and then splits it into two 7-character chunks, and then encrypts them separately with DES. As you would assume, it's much easier to crack LM passwords than most types of password hashes, because you're only cracking two separate, very short passwords. But in later versions of Windows, they completely removed the LANman, so if you're trying to crack passwords on a Vista machine or an updated XP machine, you're not going to get the LANman password, so you're going to have to crack the next password, which is the NT hash. And basically, it can take uppercase and lowercase characters and encrypts it with MD4. Obviously, since it's not split in half, it takes a lot longer to crack the NT hash than the LANman hash. So if you find a system that has the LANman hashes on there, always try to crack those first, because they'll take a lot less time. Alright, now that we've dumped the password hashes and you've seen it, you can take this password dump and use many different programs to crack the passwords. You can use Backtrack 2, we'll use John the Ripper first. You can use Kane on Windows, and then we'll show you Offcrack a little later on. Alright, just go to the John folder like we did before with Linux. Tell John where the password dump is. It's just temp pass, that's where we put it. By default, John the Ripper will do a brute force attack on every single hash. That means it's trying to crack the NT hash, it's trying to crack both LANman hashes and whatever else is in there. So you can specify which users you want to crack by using the -- user equals, then the username. And also you can specify which password hashes you want to crack. And you can do that by doing -- format equals whatever one you want. And we're going to specify NT just because usually you won't find a LANman password. And also, like before, you can specify a word list. And I'll just do that real quickly and crack the password. As you see, the password is Infinity. Next, we're going to show you Offcrack LiveCD, which basically all you have to do is pop it into that Windows machine, and it'll boot up just like Backtrack does, and it'll search through your mounted devices for Windows password hashes, and it'll automatically start trying to crack it. Alright, right when it boots up, it says that it found a partition with some password hashes, and then the Offcrack program will run. And right away it'll start trying to crack those passwords. And the nice thing about Offcrack is that it already has these rainbow tables built into it, and we'll cover rainbow tables in a later episode. But basically, it has a table full of known passwords and their hashes, so it can crack it very quickly. And as you can see, it takes a matter of seconds to crack those LM passwords with those rainbow tables, and then crack the NT password from that. Also, you can just save the extracted passwords and then crack with another program like Kane or John the Ripper, or whatever. And here's these tables. They only provide you with free LM tables, rainbow tables. You have to buy the NT rainbow table, so that kind of sucks, but whatever. Alright. That's about it for Offcrack, and then we're just going to show you how to use Kane. Alright. Well, basically, you can use Kane to extract local hashes, so like if you're already logged into your Windows computer, you can extract from that computer, or you can import saved passwords like from Offcrack. Well, we're just going to show you how to import them from the local machine. And then you can just crack it the normal way, with the dictionary, brute force, whatever. And, yeah. There's a lot of programs that provide the same kind of service, like LC3, which I think they're the same people that make Offcrack. I'm not completely sure. And there's like Sam Inside, but I just use Kane because it's free. It might not be the fastest or the best one, though. Like LC5 provides a lot of different features, like a combinational dictionary tag where it adds like numbers to the end of dictionary words, which comes in handy. But it costs money, so whatever. If you want to add an extra layer of security to your PC to prevent people from cracking your passwords, you can always add a BIOS password, which will require you to type in a password when you boot your computer.
Alright, well that is it for this episode on cracking local passwords. You guys got to keep tuning in. We're hoping to get out a lot of videos coming up here. Hopefully one every couple of weeks. We're not sure though. We're on summer break now, so we have a lot of time to put into the website. I'm of course Knox, and this is Patch. Take it easy.